The committee too. They're in the top 20, so it shows you that they lost to a pretty good team. But Clemson, I think Kirk, it's been a little bit disappointing to watch Clemson. They haven't been really great at anything, honestly, lately.
The last 2 years offensively, they just have not been able to really find an identity and make enough big plays and be able to be a dangerous team. Really blow an opportunity. You think about what happened in front of them this past weekend. Everything that needed to happen for Clemson potentially happened, and just a missed opportunity for them to climb the ladder.
At number 8. Number 8 is Penn State. Now, this is instructive for a couple of things because those two losses are to Michigan and Ohio State, and should a spot open up for the Buckeyes, Michigan beat Penn State at home, Ohio State beat them in Happy Valley. Maybe that helps the Buckeyes should a spot open.
It should help the Buckeyes, and it should also strengthen Michigan's conversation if they're thinking they should be ranked number 1. They beat Penn State soundly. They went on the road to beat Ohio State number 2 soundly. If there's an argument for Michigan to be number 1, it is because Penn State is sitting at number 8.
Kirk?
I would just add that Penn State moving up to 8, and if everything plays out the way it should this weekend, Penn State a viable candidate for Pasadena in my mind at 10-2. I don't know if they'd send Ohio State out there again after last year. Potentially maybe go Penn State to the Rose, Ohio State maybe to the Orange if they're left out of the playoff.
That's a good point. Repeat, because you could also be looking at a rematch in the Rose Bowl in that situation if USC were to make the playoff and Utah goes from the Pac-12. Now, the next team you're going to see at 7 might be significant simply because of this. In the playoff era, no one ranked lower than 6 has, in the next to last rankings, has ever gone on to make the playoff field. Let's see who's number 7. It is Tennessee. And what this means is that Tennessee is behind Alabama, who they beat, which is infuriating to Volunteer fans, I'm sure. But there's also the issue that they don't have their starting quarterback anymore with Hendon Hooker being injured.
And I think that is exactly what has happened here. Hendon Hooker is no longer there. And so their resume, as strong as it is, and a terrific season they had, without Hendon Hooker, do you think they do the same thing with that resume? I don't think they do, but I understand why they're ranked behind Bama in this situation.
I don't think they do either, but we did see them play. So I think you could say we saw them go head-to-head. We saw Tennessee beat them. So I wouldn't be upset if Tennessee was ahead of them, honestly, not in the slightest bit. It's been a magical year for Tennessee. Joe Milton looked good. I know it was Vanderbilt, but he looked really good this past week, too, and the offense was high-flying. So.
Yeah, bowl positioning, too, is going to be interesting for Tennessee, where they wind up in the Sugar, where they wind up in one of those other SEC spots in the New Year's Six game, which is still a great accomplishment for the Volunteers early in the Josh Heupel era. Okay, a lot of times what we've been doing is saying there's no drama at the top, and we've been...
We're going 6 now.
This time we're going 6, because you want to know who's ranked ahead of whom. Ohio State and Alabama, the two teams that most people have talked about. If there's an opening, how would they stack up? So let's look at the top 6 in the college football playoff rankings. Final rankings come Sunday exclusively here on ESPN. And Alabama is number 6, meaning they're going to be behind Ohio State at number 5. And I have felt like for a while there was a ceiling on Alabama that they couldn't get into the 4 regardless of what would happen. I can't imagine anything would change that now.
No, and listen, Alabama, everybody points to the close losses. I get it. They also had a bunch of close games with Ole Miss and Texas A&M and Texas. They haven't been a great team this year. You've seen Bryce Young be great in spurts, but this hasn't been a team that you look at that's been dominant by any stretch at any form in the season, really.
I think Bryce Young has been great in more than spurts. He's carried them a lot. Number 5. Buckeyes perched and waiting if something happens in front of them.
Yeah, they'll be waiting, and the biggest Utah fans in the country, a team that they beat in the Rose Bowl last season. Now Ohio State fans go out, buy your Utah gear, and get ready for if the possibility of Utah knocks off USC, Ohio State is sitting there waiting.
Okay, let's do number 4. SC, as expected, Trojans play for the Pac-12 championship against Utah at number 3. Number 3 is TCU playing for the Big 12 championship against Kansas State on Saturday at noon. College game day will be there. Now, Georgia has been number 1 for a majority of this ranking season. But Michigan now has the best win of the college football season by going on the road to Columbus and handling the Buckeyes, pulling away from them in the second half. Is that enough to make Michigan number one, or the Wolverines holding on to number two? Let's see who number two is.
Number 2, Michigan. Yeah.
Michigan. So that means Georgia hangs on. Now, Georgia's got great wins, too. They have a neutral site win against Oregon's quasi-neutral site. It was in Atlanta. And the home win against Tennessee when the Volunteers were at full strength. Enough in the committee's eyes to hold off Michigan for the top spot.
And I think